The continuation of one two-parter brings the segue to the end of the first arc, as Gabu and Valen finally come face to face and without the suits in the way, and Shitter and G are forced into desperation. That's right, we've finally come to the revelatory portion of the show that's had the few things set on simmer for a while. But we're also going full on boil at this point in time, while getting sprinkled more breadcrumbs to get satiated on before feasting late. But first, let's take a gander at the grandeur that was Kamen Rider Gavv's last 4 episodes. Big Tonto is fresh from the oven, and Shoma snatches up that treat before the Granute does, taking it off to the side when Hanto's a little miffed that this is just a one-way deal, especially since he's feeling that the dude knows him. So, Shoma decides to let it all loose and take him back to his place. Well, you know, Sachika's place. But she's tied up. After running into Shock Demi from the previous episode, she decides to spend the night at her place with her sister, to convince her that the only monsters that she should be scared about aren't the fake ones on TV, but the executives who fund it all.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Of course, Hanto overhears how Shoma talks to Sachika, assessing that the guy clearly hasn't let loose the secret. However, Hanto wants more deets, like why Shoma didn't finish off that Granute, because he was fine taking the dive as long as one of them there stinking granular fellers get blasted. But Shoma plays it cool. After all, there's only 2 writers out there, if we wipe away the possible existence of this being in the same universe as Gotthard and Geets. So he kinda needs to stick around to get them baddies too. So, while sharing this tender moment, they let each other know their tragic backstories. But when Hanto pulls out a photo of his mom, repressed memories come knocking for Shoma. What it'll reveal, find out next time. Or stick around for a theory that I have. In Granute World, we meet random guy looking for his fix, but since he ain't got no money, he's gonna have to work for that treat. So, while Rango explains to Grotto what he witnessed from Shoma previously, they get the previously mentioned street urchin about to earn them stripes. And by that I mean he's gonna get taken to Nirab for experimentation, but that's later. So what's Shoma up to? Oh, I didn't know that Gabu's required that. I mean, technically I guess it makes sense, but that makes me think, if you were a dentist in Granute World, you'd probably be making bank. Oh, there's Sachika, and she's got a plan for catching that catfish by altering her hair color. And it seems to work. She's got a catch. So Shoma tells Hanto, who's recovering rather quickly during his checkup with Suga, so it's time to execute the plan black-haired Sachika. Except,
It's a trap!
and Granute Boy fell right for the Shoma baits. Hate to interrupt so early, but this is the best way to bypass those copyright claims for this footage. No, you're right, because it's important that everyone witness. This tag team henshin is brought to you by McDonald's chocolate covered fries. Yes, those were indeed a thing, with Gabu going straight into Zaku Zaku chips, which makes me wonder, why didn't he do that from the start? I'm gonna assume they wanted their first dual henshin to actually be in base. Well, I hope that they enjoy senseless Gochi side, because even these blades are cheap. But Valen's got a plan, and shit's all over this mold. It just happens to be conveniently on the ground, just to coat them chips in cocoa to get the extra hold to smack that Granute down. Gabu shouldn't be the only one to have new tricks up his sleeve, so he gives Valen the pick of the pack, and he chooses donuts! Which, I guess they're gonna go for fluffy and light on this one, which isn't really something that I personally see with donuts, but alright. Using that donut to shut that mouth, case him up, and has Gabu go heavy artillery on him. That brings this kill count to 1 Granute, 2 Gochizos on Valen's side, and 5 Gochizos on Shoma's side. Afterwards, they share the footage with Emi, just to show her that Gabu's a good guy. But that camera angle though, kinda too good. But Hanto do be that guy. Meanwhile, Shitter and G get tossed out. This was a great episode. Once again, cooking with the narrative with the introduction to a Granute that, once again, isn't paid off immediately. The Shoma and Hanto dynamic, which flowed pretty organically. And I'm glad that they didn't keep it under wraps with Shoma and he immediately reveals himself. It allows for the two to really have meaningful moments of understanding between them. They already had fight symmetry, but now it felt like they've elevated it to a whole nother level because their trust has now expanded. There's several plans for future episodes here as well, some coming up while others are still on their way. With that said, this episode is definitely going to be getting that stomach ass! Next up, Shoma asks Dente about any thoughts regarding Valen, which he does lay some on-the-money theories, but also gets questioned on Shoma's memory pains due to the sight of Hanto's mom. But Dente can't seem to even remember Shoma's name, so what's he gonna know? This week, Shoma gets introduced to Sachika's roll cake. So moist, so fluffy. Also, that cake too! As the tastiness gets Shoma so invested that he gets so much Gavv to produce! Who's that Gochizo? It's Christmas themed, right? So I'm gonna guess Robot Santa from Futurama?
What about us loggers? Hard-working men who like to stand up after they've taken a poo and then turn around and cut their poo in half with their urine.
That's a thing? That's a thing! People do that! Well, this unlocks a memory of young Shoma seeing Shitter and Jeep celebrate their birthday. So, he brings them some flowers just for them to get trampled. Terrible. But enough about those bad memories, let's get to the cake and the process of making it, since Shoma's about to learn how to bake. Hanto is out working on detailed insight on Granute when the chatter of Kamen writers by the public gets Hanto to look for mysterious disappearances, leading him to the case of the singer in the most empty of spaces, letting Shoma in on the happenings as he's out shopping for cake stuff, and going back to awkwardly stare at Sachika as he's making that mix. And then gets to the baking. We now join musician Granute, who's apparently been in the game for a while, complaining that quality standards are too damn high. But with Hanto's investigation, he gets the drop on him and henshins, with Gabu being late to the party but gets taken in for some familial bonding. Meanwhile, this upcoming portion is brought to you by Sheets in My Sheets, now on audiobook, because one splish leads to a splash as we share a loving moment between chocolate goodness on crab meat. They even ball busting, y'all. Right to the reveal of some glass people, which cause an audible from the Granute that leaves Hanto wondering. Oh yeah, on the Gabu side of things, we get a grand new form, bringing in the axe action with all of the logging. Logging. One of my favorite pastimes. Wait, you do that? Sure, I mean, especially the urinals back at the office. Gross. Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Anyway, that's one Granute down, but this isn't even over yet, because the twins have arrived, and they're going right for the ripping action. Ooh! Forcing him to go chips, but then, no dip, we dusting. So, how about Choco? Malo! I mean, just for a bounce, and back to Gummy! And pulling out on the reserves with the kick punch action, able to not turn it around. Wow, how about one more cake log for the goodness? No. So, as Shoma falls to his doom, we've got the most devastating kill count yet, with only one agent, Valen Shokodan, and 4 gummies, 2 loggers, Zaku, Shoko, and Malo, leaving us with 10 Gachizos dead. Yeah, this episode was a journey, as we get Shoma trying out cake and then finally putting his hand into the ring of making food. All while building that bond with Sachika even stronger. A Granute that's been in the biz long enough to give us some answers on the Stomach family and Shoma losing. This was one hell of an episode that sets up the stage for the big debut, landing this one with yet another stomach ass. Shoma's still alive after that devastating defeat, when luckily Hanto finds him and has some sweets on hand to help him regain some energy. However, there's no time to waste because he's made a promise to Sachika that he's gotta keep, and he's gotta make it home. But like, how are they gonna explain how Shoma's looking like he got beat up when they get there? Well, he got jumped. But no need for formalities, there's cake to eat. And there's just something satisfying about eating some cake, all while another man watches your girl eat your cake. And you can take that as you will, because we are skirting innuendos here. But that cake was so satisfying that Gavv's Gabu grew 3 times larger that day. Metaphorically, of course. Sadly, to bust that party, Shitter and G are mad as hell and send out a notice to Shoma, giving us a proper translation for the Grenute language that made me stop everything to try and decode, only for someone on Discord to tell me someone with a lot more free time on their hands managed to actually already crack it, and there went my time. Oh well, back to it, because Shoma's gonna take them up on their challenge, and Sachika's got a bat. Ooh, damn. You know what? Save that dazzling thing for later. We got some use for that some other time. But while out, Hanto's got questions. Clearly, Shoma's hiding something about the Grenutes, and it's here that Shoma gives him the truth, but not the whole truth. They killed his mom. That's all he needs to know. So, going along to face Shitter and G. But they seem to remember something different about their past, having actually been jealous of the attention that Shoma got, leaving them to stay by themselves mostly. But before Kiva interrupts me, let's check out that deep man-on-man action with Hanto and that previous Grenute, all alone on a rooftop. But see, Hanto's here to get more information, even if he's got to top him off, which presents him with the info on the stomach ink that runs the whole operation. You done? Because this week's fight is brought to you by Twix, 2 for me, none for you, and cream pies of the oatmeal variety. Nice save. Shoma's back to getting that sibling beatdown when he remembers the joy of eating that cake. The nice, moist, creamy goodness that sends his Gabu to crank one out on itself. Who's that Gochizo? Oh, I guess I'm up to bat on this one. It's Pizza Steve!
You're thinking real hard about drinking that cola.
You're
straight to wash down with some Gorgonzola. Could spread
This
it real
stuff for me deserves a cream for you as we get a brand new cocking form. It's K-King. Oh, he will once he gets back home with Sachika. As it doesn't matter as Jifu hits the roadblock. And what's this? 1, 2, 3. Ooh, that's a whole lot of agents. Does it matter though? No, because Gabu's got the cream filling, pumping out his cream knight for the assist, and pumping a load on the agents just to shoot more cream knights. And look, they bust when you beat them. It's totally a party up in here. Look, I mean, this guy knows what's up. Gabu takes the fighting up high while the cream goes for the goods. And look, if it wasn't for the criminal penalties, I'd assume that this is how the white parties were back in the day, but you know, needless to say, Shitter and G hitting the pavement harder than crypto. Speaking of, let's pump and dump these twins with one last squeeze, and... Oh my god, it's Shida. Takes it in the end. Wow. Ooh. Devastating. So that's Shida dead, a whole mess of agents, and only 2? Oh, I guess 1 Gochizo, because the cake is safe. I'm not counting all those agents. Wow, wow, wow. This right here was a peak episode and the perfect way to end an arc. The debut of K-King was perfection, and I think the icing would have been a lyrical insert theme for the form, but honestly, the only thing that I find missing from this show as a whole is just But the OST itself is actually pretty damn good. But that addition would have probably made things even surpass things if it was good, let's be honest. Some insert themes are hit or miss. But, you know, this show's got really good music. Give me some insert themes. But look, we actually get full-on chemistry between Shoma and Sachika that I don't care who you are, whether you ship folks or not. But this was like a natural progression of a proper relationship, and I need these two to hook up. Maybe not just for the connection, but this journey Shoma's been going through has been a trail of understanding things that his mom left behind. He's gotta question how his mom even loved his dad, if she even did, and understanding those emotions through a relationship himself would actually be furthering of his own power scaling. And look, even because of that, Kaken could even get an alternate form based off of a wedding cake down the line. Not in the show, but I'm talking about like further V cinemas. As much as that was some great moments in itself, killing off Sheeta alone was an interesting decision that also leads to some emotional turmoil. Now I know that there are some debating that Sheeta's not really dead because the actress didn't get her flowers, but remember that the camouflage USB thing, although damaged, is still in Jeep's possession. So I feel like we'll get bits and pieces of her coming back, possibly haunting Jeep or him camouflaging as her. Hell, it might even be possible that he wrangles up another Granute to wear her face just to keep him sane. But then there's the whole freak out at the end of cutting the black part of his hair. This kind of gives me a sense that we might see kind of like a Baron Ashura situation of a villain. Now for those that are unfamiliar, Baron Ashura is a villain in the Mazinger franchise that is half man, half woman. Usually when we see them dead on, they are voiced by both, and they do half shots just to give you the individual voices. I think casting Jipu's actor for this role probably alludes to this plan, having him able to speak softly in a feminine tone, but also putting on more bass in his voice for any future side-by-side shenanigans. Now, one thing that we've had these last few episodes is the likelihood of tampered memories. As Shoma had this weird cut when seeing a photo of Hanto's mom, I did find it interesting that during the exchange with Sheeta and Jeep, they kinda sorta had the same thing, implying that maybe there's something up with their memories as well. One thing that I noticed in closer observation is that in their Granute form, they seem to both have this line at the very top of their heads. And while some can dismiss this as a style or design or like part of the braids, I think that it alludes to a surgical scar, implying that both of them did have their memories altered, or some further experimentation done. I mean, don't you find it kinda odd how the older Granute siblings look different than these other two? They also treat them differently. From what we can gather, their father really seems like the Endeavor type. Maybe he was trying to make the strongest offspring. Sheeta and Jeep could have been his trial phase, but then he saw something more within Shoma. Now, there is a theory that originally I dismissed, but having been falling more into the train as of late, as to whether or not the Granute that snatched up Hanto's mom was Shoma or not. Clearly, seeing the photo of his mom had an effect on his memories, so he had to have had some sort of interaction with her in the past. I was going to go down the route of Shoma being the Granute that snatched Hanto's mom because there are a few factors at play. He clearly was experimented on as a child to be stronger, and if he is a dog-wolf Granute thing, then maybe that came about from implanting Sheeta and Jipu's cells onto him. But then, I decided to dig deeper! And in episode 6, there is a page that Nirub is looking at that shows the experimentation of Shoma. Now that we know the alphabet, we can translate what's visible. And the thing is, I looked at this ahead of time just to see if anybody else had beat me to the punch of translating this, but no. So look, I even printed out the page, started typing out some things, and yes, I can more or less deduce what we've got on here. Now, from what I can make out, the biggest takeaway is that the top right is actually translated to autopsy record, meaning Shoma possibly died. I translated the majority of the page, which goes through the process of administering anesthesia, and looking at what specifically stood out is the portion here on the chest, which highlighted indicates that the heart has no abnormalities. specifically in the valves. From what we've seen, the organ translated onto Hanto and the extra one given to Suga afterwards also appears to be hearts, but granutes. Now, see, I'm wondering if maybe the wolf granute is a red herring for Shoma, and what if Hanto's mom, instead of being snatched up to be used for a dark treat, was actually used as some sort of a organ donor for a heart transplant for Shoma to be revived. This would create a big dynamic shift for any fallout for Shoma and Hanto, where he'll feel conflicted that his mother is indeed dead, but her sacrifice was used to revive Shoma. Look, I am getting far too ahead of myself because we've got one more episode to talk about, but this episode is getting that Sachika S+. Now we move on to the start of the second act, with the proper reveal last episode that Suga and Nirop have indeed been in communication. They exchange some wisdom regarding the enhancements of the riders, and how Nirop can get to cooking up one of his own, giving Suma the exchange of goods for junk food instead. Now then, because it's Christmas time, Sachika's got work to do, and Shoma does too, dealing out some lotto prizes. When Hanto shows up just to get gifted that roll cake gochizo, and getting roped into the biz that the actor had too much fun partaking in. Boy. Meanwhile, Granute from the last few weeks is back at it again, cooking up a brand new scheme because Rango's had enough with his lack of quality ingredients, luring Hanto and Shoma away, but isolating Shoma, causing him to henshin, asking that Granute to give up the treats, but we know how it's gonna go. Wait, what? That's it? He's good? The fuck? I'm taking 5. Shoma hears the guy out and buys into his tale. But when Hanto shows up, oh, now it's really oh shit. Now it's time once again for what the hell? Oh my god. Yeah, no, see, Hanto's not buying that tale and reveals that he knows all about Stomach Inc., which causes more strife between him and Shoma until Sachika arrives. We are now introduced to the Grim Reap. Grotto. Future Sakurai Yuto? Nah, it's just some guy from a show I don't know. New guy, who is the human persona worn by the Granute that was captured weeks ago, Lage 9, who's got quite the broken ability, getting into a court hearing and injecting everyone with bliss before glassing them up. Shoma questions if his cameo appearing Granute buddy is legit to his grandunk, but he's not totally convinced either, until Shoma gets that call to action, realizing that his new buddy is getting got and decides to Kiva? No? Alright. Well then, a few deflex here and a couple there, and guess what? The guy's not legit after all, and the level of disrespect deserves some in return, getting out the cake and bringing out the enhanced cream knights in chips and cocoa forms. Granute flees just for Hanto to get in that quick I told you so before shitting all over the floor, but getting the log robbed from him, as Granute goes, "Ore wa Gundam da! Transam!" catching Hanto and looking to bring him to the company. This right here was actually a great setup for the introduction of this brand new arc, and also giving us the intro to Lage 9 properly, who will obviously become the third writer in the show, while starting to sow the seeds of doubt between Shoma and Hanto's relationship. Though not as great as the previous episode, this one is worthy of yet another Stomach S. With these episodes of Gavv, we get Bushel and Cake in Gavv, along with some new buddies. So with that, let's talk form. Listen, I honestly was surprised that we got what is a Christmas-themed gimmick to actually be used in the show proper. Look, the axe weapon, even though it is technically in a similar vein to those swords, is pretty good. It's one of the best parts about this suit. But what really sticks out is just the coloration that they have on here. Like, is that cinnamon dust on top? Is that cocoa? I'm gonna guess cinnamon because it's got kind of like that that brownness to it, like some cinnamon doobie. Either way, look, I mean, the chest piece throws it a little bit off for me, but otherwise, I do like this one more than Zaku Zaku Chips and everything else that came below that one. K-King, on the other hand, wow! Talk about a goddamn masterclass of confectionery design! Really, feels like a final form, and it's going to be crazy to see how they even manage to top this. The color scheme is very well accented with the red of the strawberries and the gold. It's a continual emphasis on how a lot of writers just have generally better super forms over final forms. Now, we don't know that to be true yet, but I mean, look at this. I don't know how they can top it. Plus, look, with the color, the Gavv belt actually ends up working perfectly to match the whole scheme of it all. This is possibly my favorite suit in the show thus far. The little whip guys. You know, I really like these in terms of their personality. They are essentially Gochizos with human proportions, or rather, Shoma's proper agents. But it's nice that he gets to use them when he's in this form, because it would make for an awkward discussion if he's trying to hide regular people when Sachika comes into the room and then he just has like two guys just under. Look, it's nice that he gets something like this and is not only able to just maintain them while he's in the form, but also give them forms of their own. It makes it something fresh and something that actually is a lot more explainable than pulling shit out of your ass when it comes to just making full portions using nothing but the gimmicks themselves. Huh? Gotchard? Still, this is just the base undersuit of Gabu with the headpiece and robe. So, it's right above Zaku Saku Chips, but below Bosho. The headpiece also alleviates the flat face syndrome that Gabu has in a lot of forms. So, their Chips and Choco forms are actually a cut above the rest. Oh hi, Editing Zio here, because I realized when I was cutting the portion of Let's Talk Forms and then went back to start adding in footage, I forgot to talk about Valen's new donut form. So, yeah, it's a downgrade. It's not, no, it does nothing for me. The donuts on the eyes, honestly, is probably the worst part of it. I'm looking at it right now. It's no, definitely not that great of a form in comparison to what we had with base Valen. This is probably one of my least favorite suits in the show in general. As just overall, the donuts, the obvious take on the donuts, it's just not that great. Moving on, back to editing. This show, I'm telling you, this show's going places, unless it hits that halfway brick wall, but yeah. Look, I feel that although we spent a good bit establishing a relationship between Hanto and Shoma, the narrative will slowly start to make Hanto possibly distrust Shoma. As the more that he learns about the Grenade Society, the more he discovers what Shoma's been willingly keeping away from him. And look, Hanto's got a mission, and he's really set up to suffer more tragically as things progress. Now we know that Mirob has been working with Suga, and I was right in calling that earlier based off of the tape that was sent to him, which goes to further their scientific prowess, which goes without saying, but expected. Scientists gonna science. Hanto's going to end up feeling betrayed and lied to by everyone around him. Such a path would work great given how the character building just keeps going between him and Shoma. There's a lot of seeds of doubt, and if he figures out that Shoma is not just a Grenu, but that Suga has also been working with a Grenu, then who can he really trust? Right now, the formula seems to be, there's like a little bit of a seed of doubt, they rekindle on what needs to be done, but then there's another plant, and rinse and repeat. Now we get to Lage 9 and our future third writer, because, I mean, it's obvious. The result of further experimentation, it's clear that they have had plans for him for a while now, and Rango pretty much admits it, specifying that they obviously can't lose him because he's important. But being based on a jellyfish, I wonder if he has already had the ability to shot people or if it's a modification done afterwards. Either way, I know that some in my circle are speculating that he may be a double agent and willingly got caught to infiltrate the Stomach family. But I'm not sold on it quite yet. We know that within the society, what the Stomach Inc. has been doing is illegal. Can't be harvesting humans like that. So if he was, say, an undercover detective, wouldn't he feel some kind of way in terms of trying to capture humans? I guess we'll find out in an upcoming episode if he has a tell when he's actually handing the classified people to an agent or, one of the family members. But even then, if the point is to get their hands on the dark treats to turn them over into evidence, isn't just the captured people, the phone with the manual, and his own modifications proof enough? So look, I'm not fully sold on that logic yet, but I'll reserve my thoughts the more I get into things. Really, a lot of the revelatory stuff for me came in the form of the information that I translated earlier, and I'm inferring what could be the result of it. Seriously, the last 2 days or so, I've been looking over this sheet so much, that I've pretty much memorized the Grenu alphabet. So, if you're one of those people that skip to the ends just to get some thoughts, the real mind explosion that happened in the episode talk before this one. Gabu's first arc wrapped up nicely, and the start of this one is looking promising. And unlike its predecessor and concurring show, it's not pulling out a poster for every arc. Yet. Or is it? Nope! So there's really nothing to analyze from that form of media. I've seen the scans of the upcoming writer, but listen, we'll get to it once we actually get to it. But I've given you a lot of things in terms of thoughts, but those were mine. What are yours? What do you think of the wrap-up to Gavvu's first arc and the start of the next one? Do you foresee Lage 9 being a double agent? What about my potential findings on what could have happened to Shoma? Anyway, that's it for me. I'll see you on the next one. Until then, bye.